Today students learned how to represent subtraction problems using 3 different equations and how to show their work using an empty number line to show what's happening in each of the equations. So for example, the problem here reads, what is the difference between 278 and 416? So students are learning this vocabulary, the difference. When we see that, it means subtraction. Write 3 different equations to represent this problem. Show a number line that would represent each equation. So we talked about equations that have missing add-ins. So the first thing that we did was we did the addition equation. So students know that 278 plus something, and they know to use a variable, any letter will do, will get us to 416. Students have learned that subtraction is really finding the difference or the space between 2 numbers on a number line. In this case, this equation, we could count up, and in fact that's what we're doing. 278 plus a, this missing portion in here, would get us to 416. This is where having a good concept of base 10 really helps. Most students will jump 2 because we like to get to multiples of 10. 80, we need another 20 and to get us to 300. And then students realize that we can jump 100 to get us to 400. And then many students would just jump 116 because they realize that this last step is 16. Students then have figured out that the space between is these numbers put together. Some students will add it up out to the side. Many students will do this part in their head. So long as they are accurate, I am fine with either way. And so then our final step would be to say A equals 138. Now at this point, many students are very comfortable using the traditional algorithm that we grew up learning as really our only strategy to solving subtraction problems. And so many of them decided it would be a great idea to check their work and make sure they're getting the same answer. So that is what they did over here, many of them. I'm trying to get students to understand that checking your work and being able to use multiple strategies is a good thing. And so they were like, yay, we got 138, and which is the same answer we got over here. So then the subtraction equation is basically the opposite of what we did here. If we start with our larger number, 416, and we subtract something, it is going to get us to our smaller number. And this is something that, this is again a strategy that students learned last week. They are just now kind of learning all 3 equations and being able to use them flexibly. So many students realize that really this is just the opposite of what we did here. Instead of counting up, this one is starting and we're counting back. Now many students will take away that 16 right away to get to 400, a multiple of 100. And from then we can see that if we take away 100, we're going to get to 300. And then from there, many students can figure out that if we take away another 20, or some students will just automatically take away 22, that we will get to our lower number. And again, the answer to our question, our equation A, is we find it by adding these up. So most students had an easy time doing these 2 strategies. What was difficult was actually putting subtraction itself on a number line. So our final equation today would be 416 minus 278. equals A. So students are used to going back and forth between the two numbers, but now I'm actually asking them to take the number away itself on the number line. So if we start at 416 and we take away this 200, we're going to get 216. Now, we can take away the 70 or we can take away the 8. It really doesn't matter. I'm trying to get students to do what would be easier for them. For me, it would be taking away the 8. So I would subtract the 8 from the ones place and get 208. Then the last thing we have to take away is this 70. Which will get us to 138. And so many students have to kind of change their thinking a little bit and realize that now our answer is where we land with this strategy. And the bumps up here are actually the number that we have taken away. So this was the new strategy that we learned today. These two were actually easier for students. So I hope that helps as you're working with your child. I know that that may seem like a lot of extra work, but what we're trying to do is help students understand what subtraction is and how to develop mental flexibility with these strategies.